Kia ora, I'm Chelsea Daniels, and this is The Front Page, a daily podcast presented by the New Zealand Herald. A fleet of 13 foiling catamarans will tear around the Waitematā Harbour this weekend in SailGP's return to New Zealand. Last year was the first time Auckland hosted SailGP, drawing more than 25,000 spectators. The City of Sails is the second stop of 13 across the globe for the 2026 season. Today on The Front Page, NZ Herald sports reporter Christopher Reive is with us to unpack Burling and Tuke's home water reset, American Magic's blockbuster Danish buyout, and the must-watch foiling feats this weekend. So, Chris, last year was the first time Auckland hosted SailGP. We must have done all right for us to host it again, hey?
Yeah, it was a very fun event last year. This year is the last of sort of an initial 4-year agreement between SailGP and, I guess, New Zealand for hosting. We had a couple of years down south and then they came up here. Last year was a lot of fun. They had good conditions, huge grandstand, which sold out. They've made it, I think it was 30% bigger this year. Yeah, they're very ambitious in what they're trying to do, and by all accounts, this year's going to be fun again. And I know they're in conversations pretty advanced to bring it back after this year as well. So.
Yeah, because even if you don't watch sailing or you don't know anything about it, it's still like a real cool vibe down at the waterfront, hey?
It is, especially if the sun's out, which, you know, hopefully the weather kind of clears up before then. But yeah, it is a lot of fun, especially when there's a lot of people around. It's a really sort of festival-y atmosphere. And I imagine like a lot of people who go down maybe don't really know what's going on. It is quite hard to tell that when you're just watching from beside the water, because you don't quite get the same sort of angles, the same graphics that tell you who's in the lead as you do on TV. But just to see these boats doing what they can do, going as fast as they can, it's pretty impressive. And they get so close to the shore as well, which is another big thing of SailGP and getting these sort of waterfront grandstands, which they try and do at every event.
Well, speaking of conditions, how are they looking this weekend?
Yeah, quite windy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be quite fun. I was talking to Swiss grinder Stuart Dodson yesterday, and he said it's going to be a weekend where it's not the most technical racing. It's probably going to be a lot more of just sending it, trying to stay out of other teams' ways, and yeah, just trying to adjust to the conditions. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, how does the wind change things? I suppose like in terms of Auckland versus the rest of the world.
Yeah, so there's a few, I guess everywhere has different conditions. Like we saw in Perth last month, they get sort of that afternoon breeze come through, but that's a pretty consistent breeze and you get that everywhere on the course. Out in Auckland, it's often a little bit more patchy, a little bit more gusty. So they'll probably have a few spots where it's very high and then it drops off and then it comes back up, which is just another thing they have to try and deal with on board when they're racing at as fast as these boats can go. Like the speed record is 100k or just over 100k's an hour. So yeah, when you're going that fast, trying to make pretty quick decisions in what is going to be a pretty tight race course with 13 boats on it, there's certainly the element of danger in there. So yeah, but then you get the light air venues, which are a lot different for the sailors. There's not as much foiling. It's sort of a lot more just doing what you can with the conditions, trying not to make mistakes so that, you know, you can get the results. I feel like the high wind venues, just as someone who watches, there's a lot more opportunity for teams to mess up and other teams to take advantage because there's just a lot more jeopardy in that sense.
And that just makes it much more exciting to watch.
It does.
If
you're a fan on the waterfront watching, I mean, obviously the boats don't want to crash into each other, but I mean, fans kind of want to see that.
They kind of want to see someone capsize.
Yeah, they might not say that, but yeah, everyone's interested in a crash.
Well, you've covered SailGP from Perth, so that was last month?
Yep.
And past Auckland events, obviously, as well. And these gale forecasts are possible. You mentioned the tight course and the fact that there are 13 catamarans out there.
Mm-hmm.
How does that raise the stakes?
Yeah, you don't want to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. You try and avoid the other boats while, I guess, maximizing your own position. So it is maybe a little bit of a trade-off sometimes. If you do have those close calls, maybe some teams will have to concede position to someone else just to keep their boat safe. But you will probably get some instances where neither team wants to make that decision and things might get a little bit dicey. So it just comes down to the sailors in that sense and making the right decisions in the moment, which probably a lot easier said than done. They're very competitive, that fleet.
What about the boats themselves?
What about the boats themselves?
I mean, have they ever experienced these kind of high winds before, the boats?
They do get pretty high winds. I don't know what the top level sort of condition is, and I don't think they've found that yet. Since SailGP started, they've sort of been developing this fleet every year and bringing more tech on board to make them, I guess, easier to handle in higher winds, lower winds, and everything in between. So I do think they will feel fairly confident that the boats can handle sort of gale force winds. But again, I guess until we've seen them in that sort of winds, we won't really know. But they're all smart. The people who run SailGP, they're all sailors. They'll make the decisions when they need to.
Well, when they make these kind of improvements to the boats, and we're saying boat, they cost so much money, right? And the tech on board and stuff as well is actually incredible to see. When they make them, have you ever seen one version become completely drastically different to another because something's happened?
Nah, so SailGP race a one design fleet, so every boat is identical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it does come down to just how well the boat is raced, and when they're fixed to a certain specification, so that there's no difference in the boat. They just come back and it's the same boat. They don't have to really bring anything else up to speed, make sure anything else works. And it's kind of the point of difference with SailGP and the America's Cup, which is sort of a lot more finding the gains in the development side of things. And
maybe that's what I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
because when we were chatting about the America's Cup, there was a lot of talk about the design of the boat.
Yeah, that's huge in the America's Cup, whereas SailGP is all about the racing.
Right. So the America's Cup is where, somebody, if we were to talk about running, someone can wear those bouncy shoes that make them run faster.
Yeah.
Whereas in SailGP, they have to all wear the same shoes.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, sure.
So there were some positives from Perth, but what do you reckon the team is going to be taking? What lessons are they taking from Perth?
Don't crash.
Yeah, that'd be a big one.
That's probably a good place to start. But I don't know if lessons is the right word. I think they were pretty happy with where they were on training days. Blair Tuke said they were kind of ahead of where they thought they would be coming into the new season. So they'll just be frustrated they missed out on a couple of days of sailing in good conditions, and they'll be out there today. They're one of only a couple teams who are actually getting a practice day because they have to make sure their boat is ready to go for the weekend, which by the sounds of things it is. They've just got to tick a few boxes and make sure everything works as it's supposed to, so they can get out there and send it over the weekend and try and make some points back up, because starting on zero when this is a team who are consistently at the top of the fleet, this is a very unusual position for them to be in, and they know how good the rest of the teams are, like the British who won in Perth and won the season last year. Like, if they get too big a lead, they're going to be pretty hard to catch later on.
Do the Black Foils, though, do they have a home court advantage?
Yes and no. They'll definitely have the home support. They had some issues here last year with the tech of their boat. They didn't perform as well as they would have, and that's partly due to mechanical side of things. They were pretty frustrated with that. But so they were fourth last year. When we were down in Christchurch the year before, they won it down there, and the home support is always something they bring up, especially when you look at the huge grandstand on the waterfront there and you see that packed. I mean, that's for sailors, that's something you don't get everywhere in the world, so it's definitely something that drives them.
Fundamentally, We believe in this team. What Nikolai and the rest of the team have developed is a high-performance platform. You can see it in their performance on the water, but also their values off the water. And in Rockwool, we have a great partner. So for us, we're embracing the Danish character of the team. We're investing in it. We're going to develop it.
So American Magic's $98.8 million buyout of Rockwool Denmark brings NBA money and Doug DeVos. How does this shake up the speed hierarchy heading into Auckland racing?
Yeah, I don't know if it shakes up too much, really. The team have been pretty, I guess, open about being confident in the team that's already on board with the Danish. They do have an existing relationship with some of the Danish sailors, and it really just brings in, well, I guess it cements American Magic's place in SailGP. They, either late last year or early this year, they sort of announced that they were turning their Pensacola facility into SailGP training facility, which SailGP have never had, and that's a big sort of talking point around the fleet is they don't get time to practice in these boats before race weekends. So now they've got that facility that they will be able to use. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work, whether teams have to book specific times or anything like that. But now that American Magic have this team, it's just, I guess, another indication that they want to be involved in this league, and they seem pretty happy to work with the current Denmark setup and take it from there. So.
Well, seeing that kind of investment has got to be good for the sport as a whole as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing a team sold for $60 million American dollars is, yeah, it's a pretty big number, and they're pretty confident that a lot of the teams will either break even, if not be profitable in the next sort of year or two, which is great for a league that 5 years ago was just still starting up.
Well, you said you spoke to Stuart Dodson.
Mm-hmm.
So he's New Zealand, his sole SailGP champ with Spain, now with Switzerland. What growth have you seen in that team?
Yeah, they were actually my most improved team last year. They didn't win the official most improved award. That went to
but
Germany.
Yours. And that's mine, the one that counts.
Yeah, that's the one that counts to me. Yeah, no, I thought they were really good. They finished the year Stuart was sailing with Spain. Switzerland finished last, and they just weren't that great. And then last year, they really turned things around. They got on the podium, I think, for the first time in one of the races in Auckland. And then they had 2 event podiums later in the year, so 2 third places, and finished sort of mid-table, which was great development for that team. And I know there had been some frustrations about them not sort of getting up to speed with the rest of the fleet, but it looks like they're well on their way now.
So from America's Cup to SailGP, Kiwis obviously dominate foiling. Does this weekend spotlight any emerging talent pipelines for future Black Foils hopefuls?
Yeah, to an extent. So during the press conference today, Russell Coutts did mention that they're looking into a minor league sort of structure to give opportunities to young sailors that maybe want to get involved in SailGP in the future. How that will look, we're not 100% sure yet, whether it's a sort of similar to the America's Cup where they have the AC40, which is a scaled down version of the boat. Maybe SailGP do a sort of scaled down version of the F50. Maybe there's another way they can do it, but it's all very, very much in the infancy, Russell Coutts said. But that's one way of doing things. They do have opportunities now to get young sailors or reserve sailors a little bit up to speed. So they do have opportunities to get them on board and run them through some of the roles. I think what they're noticing as the fleet expands is there's not enough talent out there to sail these boats. They're a very specific sort of boat that you only kind of get good at from having that experience. As we've seen across the fleet, the new teams often struggle because they don't have the right talent on board, and they're now sort of bringing in another step where they're making every athlete get a like a license, like you see in Formula One. You have to get so many points to earn your license to be able to drive in Formula One, and SailGP are now making it so athletes can get license points in various different roles, and then once they've got enough and pass the right test, and say Peter Burling, he's a driver, he could go and be a flight controller if he needed to. So there's those avenues as well. They are very, very active and constantly trying to find ways to bring in new talent and bring in new opportunities and I guess make the league as good as it can be. But it is still quite a young league and it's just going to keep growing. And it looks like they're, being very proactive in that sense to make sure that they are creating these opportunities so that we don't just get to sort of the end of the line of this group of sailors and they're like, what now? Who can sail these boats? And they're back to square one. So.
Well, I suppose in a health and safety aspect as well, making sure that people can drive those boats and sail on them. Because imagine hitting the water at 100 k's an hour.
Yeah. It's one thing to imagine it. It's another thing to do it. And yeah, there's very little room for error. And even in Perth, we saw how quickly things can go wrong and sailors can get injured. So it is very much, you have to know what you're doing.
How's the prep been going? What has been the focus?
Yeah, it's been great. Well, obviously the boat hasn't been in great shape, but
No.
it is now. The SailGP team and our personal teams have been putting in a lot of work to get the boat back and ready for action. So yeah, we should be out there Friday training and then Saturday, Sunday for racing. And yeah, it's going to be epic. If anything last year was to go by, it's going to be more people and more fans to be able to get on that grandstand and watch the racing. And the forecast looks epic.
Yeah, that's for
It's going to be a really, really windy sou'wester. So it's going to be epic racing for the fans and for us as well.
So what are some major predictions for the weekend and beyond?
Major predictions.
Give me the lowdown. Who am I looking out for?
Yeah, good question. I would like to say Italy are a team to watch this year. Phil Robertson coming back on board to sort of help bring them up to speed. He's one of the most experienced in the fleet. He's kind of been with SailGP since the start. This is now his fourth team, but he's obviously a Kiwi. He's sailed in Auckland. He knows these waters. So if the team can manage the conditions, they could be one to watch. I do feel like it's going to be a case of sort of the same thing again. Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, they're always the ones to watch. And Sweden, the newcomers this year, I'm kind of calling them the second New Zealand team. They've got Andy Maloney, flight controller, Brad Ferrand on grinding, and then they've got Team New Zealand sailors and Nathan Outeridge, who's the helmsman, and Chris Draper, who's the wing trimmer. So it's a very sort of New Zealandy team.
Yeah,
so,
New Zealand take two.
So they could go quite well out here. They will know these waters, and they are very, very talented, and they all have a lot of experience on the F50. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them on the podium.
And Stuart Dodson as well.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
going to be looking out for.
Yeah.
I mean they're my team now.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm going to be looking out for them.
If you want any other Kiwis, Will Tillers with the Germans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and who else is out there? We got Jason Saunders with the French. He's their flight controller. He's been there since the start. Canada have Alex Sinclair grinding. So there's a lot of Kiwis around the league.
So Kiwis actually do dominate this sport.
Yeah, there's a lot of Kiwis involved. It's great.
Thanks for joining us, Christopher.
Yeah, anytime.
That's it for this episode of The Front Page. You can read more about today's stories and extensive news coverage at nzherald.co.nz. The Front Page is hosted and produced by me, Chelsea Daniels. Kane Dickey is our studio operator, Richard Martin, our producer and editor, and our executive producer is Jane Yee. Follow The Front Page on the iHeart app or wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next time for another look beyond the headlines.